A massive storm is gathering over the palace, and the clouds are thick with betrayal. The Igbimo elders have issued a chilling ultimatum. If Ebony leaves, the jewel will pay the price in blood and peace. But the biggest shocker isn't the threat, it's the man leading it. Obabolaji, the man who was pulled back from the brink of the grave by the very people he is now attacking, is the one holding the torch to burn it all down. Welcome to Crown Gist. If you haven't joined this royal family yet, hit that subscribe button now to stay ahead of the game with the deepest updates. You don't want to be the last to know. The atmosphere in the kingdom has shifted. You can feel it in the air, that heavy, uncomfortable silence that comes right before a thunderous explosion. The Igbimo elders, men who are supposed to be the custodians of wisdom, have come out with a message that has sent shivers down the spines of everyone following this royal drama. They are not just speaking, they are threatening. Their target, the jewel. Their demand, Ebony must remain in the palace at all costs, or the great lion and the jewel will never taste the sweetness of peace again. But wait, my Crown Gist friends and families, let's look closer at the faces of these elders. Leading this fierce charge is a man named Obabolaji. If you have been following this gist from the start, that name should ring a massive bell. This isn't just any elder. This is a man who owes his very breath to the palace he is now trying to destabilize. Let's take a trip back to a few months ago. The moon was full, and the spiritual tension in Nigeria was at an all-time high. That was when Yanifa arrived from Puerto Rico. At that time, Obabolaji was not the strong, shouting elder you see today. No, he was a shadow of a man. He was suffering from a condition that defied every logic. His legs were swollen like heavy logs, filled with water that the doctors call edema. It wasn't just his legs. The water retention was taking over his entire body. His family was desperate. They took him to the best hospitals, even flying him all the way to India. The doctors did scans, they checked his kidneys, they ran tests on his heart and his liver. Every report came back saying he is medically fine. But anyone with eyes could see he was dying. He was frail, he couldn't stand, and he was wasting away. When the family brought him back, they started moving from one spiritual house to another, but nothing worked. It was the great lion who showed mercy. Even though Obabolaji had initially been among those saying Yanifa should not be allowed into the palace, the Kabiasi ignored the bitterness and reached out a helping hand. He told the family to bring the dying man to the palace. When Yanifa saw him, she didn't need a stethoscope or a blood test. She looked at him once and spoke with authority. She said, "This is an affliction." She revealed that this wasn't a natural sickness, it was a spiritual trap. Obabolaji had been involved in a fierce land dispute with a neighboring community, a massive portion of land he was determined to take. The people of that community, out of desperation or revenge, had planted something in the soil. The moment he stepped on that land, the wahala began. It was designed to suck him dry, finish his wealth, and eventually lead him to a miserable, slow death. The tension during those days was thick. Yanifa told the palace that there was a specific rare leaf she needed to find in the deep Nigerian forest. She spent days and nights entering the woods, searching for this one cure. She told them, "If I find this leaf here, he will live. If I don't, I will have to wait until I get back to Puerto Rico to send it. But will he last that long?" Every day, the palace held its breath. Then the news came. She had found it. After the full moon ritual, the leaves were brought out. They were squeezed into his eyes, his ears, and his nostrils. Some were cooked into a potent medicine, while others were applied as a poultice all over his swollen body. Slowly, the water began to recede. The man who couldn't lift a finger started to move. The man who was prepared for a casket started to walk. Today, Obabolaji is standing stronger than ever, but instead of gratitude, he has brought a sword. He is now the mouthpiece of the 7 elders fighting the great lion. He claims he isn't fighting the Kabiesi, but rather fighting for their own, referring to Ebony. But we must ask, why is the Egbimo so obsessed with Ebony staying? They are painting a picture that the jewel is the villain. They claim she is the one whispering into the great lion's ear, telling him to push Ebony out. They are calling her heart wicked and stubborn. They even went as far as to say that the jewel's own uncle has been warning her to stop her mission, but she refuses to listen. This brings us to a very dark question. What is the secret deal between these elders and the jewel's uncle? Why is the pressure coming from both the family side and the traditional side? The jewel has remained silent, her eyes fixed on what she calls her divine destination. She believes this is a battle of destiny, a hurdle she must jump to become who God has called her to be. But the elders aren't backing down. They are using Ebony as a pawn in a much larger game. They claim the great lion is only acting to appease the jewel's heart. They want the world to believe that the jewel is jealous, that she wants to be the only one in the circle. They are even trying to rewrite history, claiming that Ebony and the jewel used to be close friends, a claim that makes most people want to snort in disbelief. As the sun sets on the palace today, the lines are drawn. On one side, you have a woman following her path, and on the other, you have 7 elders, led by a man who was saved by a miracle, ready to declare war over a wedding that has become a battlefield. The Wahala is just beginning, and the secrets buried in the Ajala forest are starting to scream.
Now, my Crown G's friends and families, let's go deeper into the shadows where the real work is being done. You see, the world sees Obabolaji shouting in the palace, but what they don't see is the secret meetings happening at night. People are beginning to ask, why is there so much wahala just because one person, Ebony, might be leaving the palace? The truth is starting to leak out like water from a cracked pot. There is a deep hidden connection between the Egbimo elders and the jewel's own uncle. This uncle has been playing a very dangerous game. While he pretends to care about the family name, he has been mounting a level of pressure on the jewel that is almost unbearable. He has warned her, threatened her, and tried to break her spirit. But why? It's because they know that if Ebony leaves, the balance of power shifts. They are using Ebony as a human shield to protect their own interests. They claim they are fighting for tradition, but we know it's about control. Obabolaji, who is now the leader of these 7 restless elders, has been singing a specific anthem. He keeps saying the jewel is stubborn and that her refusal to listen to her uncle is a sign of her arrogance. Well, let's talk about the forest of Ajala for a moment. This is where the story gets really chilling. Remember I told you that Yanifa went into that forest to find a leaf to save Obabolaji? Well, the forest of Ajala is not just a place of trees and leaves, it is a place of ancient secrets. While Yanifa was searching for that cure, she saw things. She saw markers in the forest that pointed to a long-standing pact, a pact involving some of these very elders. When Yanifa was moving left, right, and center through the thickest parts of the woods, she discovered that the affliction on Obabolaji wasn't just a simple land dispute accident. It was a spiritual death that had come due. The community he was fighting with didn't just plan something to kill him, they activated a curse that was already hanging over the Egbimo circle. By saving Obabolaji, Yanifa didn't just heal a man, she interrupted a spiritual cycle, and now the elders are terrified of the consequences. They believe that if the jewel continues her journey toward her divine destination, she will expose everything that has been hidden in the Ajala forest for decades. This is why they are so desperate to keep Ebony in the palace. They want to keep the great lion distracted, they want him focused on palace drama so he doesn't look too closely at the elders' accounts or their history in the forest. The jewel, however, is not playing their game. She has remained remarkably calm in the face of their insults. They call her wicked because she doesn't beg the Kabiyesi to keep Ebony. They say she is keeping quiet to ensure Ebony is pushed out. But the jewel knows that silence sometimes is the loudest weapon. She isn't fighting Ebony, she is fighting for her own life and her own right to exist without being a shadow in her own home. The pressure from the uncle is the part that hurts the most. Imagine having your own blood working with the people who want to see you fail. He told her she was being foolish, that she should write off her life and just accept whatever crumbs the elders throw at her. He wants her to follow the marriage vows like a prisoner with no right to dream or move forward. But the jewel has seen the light at the end of the tunnel. She knows that the destination God has for her is far greater than the walls of this palace. She is standing on the truth, while Obabolaji and the others are trying to sink her in the mud. The elders are warning that peace will vanish, but the people watching are starting to say, "Let them go be miserable forever." Because you cannot fight a person who is working with destiny and expect to win. The Ajala forest still holds more secrets, and as we move into the next part of this gist, you will find out what exactly the jewel's uncle was promised in exchange for her niece's peace. It involves a legacy that was supposed to be buried forever, but as they say, the earth always speaks.
My crown gist friends and families, now we are entering the heart of the storm. The part that will make you wonder if people truly had a conscience. You see, while Obabolaji was busy recovering his strength through the miracle leaves of Ajala, a secret pact was being polished in the dark. Everyone is asking, why is the jewel's uncle so aggressive? Why is a man who should be her protector acting like her chief executioner? The secret meeting happened on a night when the moon was hidden by thick clouds. The uncle met with the Igbimo elders in a private location, far from the prying eyes of the Kabiyesi. In that meeting, the elders didn't hide their fears. They told the uncle plainly, "Your niece is becoming too powerful. She is seeing things she shouldn't see. If she remains the favorite of the great lion, our influence in this palace is finished." They made the uncle a promise. They told him that if he could successfully pressure the jewel to back down, to go her way, or to simply accept Ebony as the permanent shadow in the palace, he would be given a seat at the high table of the Igbimoseko. They promised him a share of the lands surrounding the Ajala forest, the very lands that Obabolaji almost died for. This is why the uncle has been acting like a man possessed. He wasn't wanting the jewel because he loved her. He was wanting her because his own greed was on the line. He told her, "You are a woman. You have no right to this kind of power. Just sit down and be a wife." But the jewel looked him in the eye and saw the greed hiding behind his elderly advice. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the Igbimo elders are playing a very psychological game. They are trying to turn the public against the jewel. They are spreading the rumor that the great lion has become weak because of her. They say he is making decisions just to appease her heart. But we all know the great lion. He is not a man you can easily manipulate. If he is deciding that Ebony must leave, it's because he has seen the truth that the elders are trying to hide. The wahala escalated when Obabolaji stood in front of the palace gates and declared that the jewel is the reason for the division in the kingdom. Imagine the irony. A man whose life was saved by the mercy of the palace is now the one calling for the palace to be divided. He is using his newfound health to scream at the top of his lungs, claiming that their own, Ebony, is being treated unfairly. But let's talk about Ebony for a second. The elders keep insisting she was friends with the jewel. My crown gist family, we know the truth. There was never a friendship. There was only a coexistence of convenience. Now that the truth is coming out, the elders want to use the friendship card to make the jewel look like a betrayer. They want the world to think she is kicking out a sister. The jewel is facing a double-edged sword. Her family, the uncle, is pushing her from behind, and the traditional elders, Igbimo, are blocking her from the front. They want her to feel isolated. They want her to feel like if she doesn't do what they say, she will be alone in this world. But there is a spiritual side to this gist that the elders have forgotten. They forgot that Yanifa didn't just leave medicine. She left a warning. She told them that any hand that tries to stop a divine destination will wither. Obabolaji thinks he is safe because he can walk again, but he doesn't realize that the same forest of Ajala that gave him life can also take away his peace. The pressure is mounting. The great lion is watching. The elders are shouting. The uncle is threatening. And in the middle of it all, the jewel is standing still, waiting for the right moment to make her move. The wedding that was supposed to bring joy has now become the very thing that has restarted a war that was supposed to be over years ago. African Nigerian friends and family, we have reached the boiling point. The final cards are being played and the masks are falling off faster than anyone expected. The elders of the Igbimo and the jewel's uncle think they have backed her into a corner, but they don't realize that a lioness is most dangerous when she is quiet. The wahala reached a new level when the elders tried to use the wedding vows as a trap.
They told the jewel that a virtuous woman must tolerate anything to keep the palace together. They wanted her to sacrifice her mental health, her joy, and her future just so Ebony could remain and the elders could keep their secrets buried in the Ajala forest. But the jewel has finally spoken back. She made it clear that a marriage vow is not a death sentence and that her destiny is not for sale. When Obabolaji heard this, he went into a frenzy. He began to prophesy doom, saying that the jewel would never find happiness with the great lion if she insisted on this path. But the people of the kingdom are starting to see through the lies. They are looking at Obabolaji, a man who was once a waterlogged shadow near death, and they are asking, where is your gratitude? They see that his loyalty is not to the Kabies or the tradition, but to the hidden land deals and the power he shares with the Bimo Seko. The most shocking part of this final standoff is the jewel's uncle. It is now being said that he tried one last time to force her to surrender. He told her that if she didn't listen, the family would disown her. But the jewel knows that when God is leading you to a destination, the opinions of men, even family, become like dust in the wind. She is choosing her peace over their pressure. As for Ebony, the elders are still holding onto her like a life jacket in a stormy sea. They know that once she is out of that palace, their direct link to monitor the great lion is gone. The war that has begun again over this wedding is not just about two women. It is a war between the old dark ways of the Igbimu and the new light that the jewel represents. People are talking everywhere. Some say the Ajala forest is preparing to reclaim what it gave to Obabolaji because she used his life to fight the truth. Others say the jewel has already won because she refused to let them break her spirits. The elders promise she will be miserable, but the joy on her face today says otherwise. She is walking into her destiny, while those who plotted against her are the ones losing sleep. The great lion remains the heavy factor in all this. By choosing to stand by the jewel, he has declared war on the corrupt system of the elders. The wedding bells have indeed turned into war drums, and the circle of fear that the elders tried to create has finally enclosed them instead. My crown gist friends and family, we must remember that all these details, the secret meetings, the threat from the uncle and the actions of the Igbimu elders are all alleged, unverified information and rumors making the rounds on social media. These are stories and gists from the online space and should not be taken as absolute facts yet. We're only here to keep you updated on what everyone is talking about.